Hello, friends, and welcome to Virtual Strangers 42. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend Roots. Roots, I'm excited today, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited because I feel like I'm on top of the world, just floating here. So I'm good to go.
Ground control to Major Roots.
Yeah.
Uh, no, man, I'm excited because for the first time in like a friggin' month, we got some games to talk about here. And it is kind of slim pickings, but it's better. It's better than last week's, better than the week before. We're not just sitting here talking about headsets and haptic gloves for 2 hours.
Yeah, we got it creeping up on us, Wes. We got, I guess it's what, 7 days. Walking Dead, it's going to be coming. And my prediction is that things are just going to keep picking up pace. It's just going to be boom, 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 boom. After that, it's just going to be crazy.
Yeah, it'll be periodic. Generally, this is the slow time, like from January to May is kind of the slow time, and then around May, that's when the Facebook thing happens. That's when E3 happens, right around that time period, and then it just builds from there all the way up through the holiday. So it's a welcome change, just so long as they're giving us enough to do a show on, and I feel like we have enough to do a show this week.
Yeah, I agree.
First of all, the game of games, the best game of all time of the week, game of the year of the week, Half-Life Alyx. Tyler McVicker, still with fresh egg on his face from his prediction as to why Valve didn't show up to the Video Game Awards, wiped the egg from his eyes and gave us these cool new screenshots from the game. And, we didn't learn a lot that we didn't already know, but man, this thing looks good, don't it?
Yeah, I like the just the artwork. It's just really good. And to see like a lot of these old skins coming into, the futuristic look of it, it looks really good. So
Yeah, the lighting really sticks out to me, which again, good lighting is becoming more and more common in today's games. But man, this looks next level. It looks almost ray traced. And, we thought that this was going to be AAA level production values in a VR game. And I don't see anything here that disproves that.
no, it makes me even more psyched too than I was, which is actually kind of I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, totally hyped. Hope that we still get this in March and that doesn't get the customary Valve delay. But this game was apparently almost finished when the guys that tested played it last month. So I gotta imagine it's going to be ready to go when the time comes. Something that surprised me a little bit, not being experienced with Half-Life at all. This game looks borderline horror, doesn't it?
yeah, some of these are really creepy, and that kind of gets me psyched for some of the rumors of Left 4 Dead as well, because that kind of looks like a good zombie there, and I don't know, like you said, it just looks really good. So
Yeah, man. I think this is going to be a great year for zombies in VR. I think we're finally going to get that level of complete game that we wanted when we first tried Arizona Sunshine. Because if you're like me, I played through Arizona Sunshine and I loved it. It was fun, but my mind immediately went to what's coming, what's next for zombies in VR. And we're about a week away from what's next for zombies in VR. So that's pretty cool.
yeah, I'm looking forward to Dying Light 2 as well as Walking Dead. I know it's not VR, but the original Dying Light had that VR mode, and so I'm curious to see if it's going to have any code written into it for VR for the second one as well. So, and with the way things are laying out, I could see it happening, and it would be an amazing game in VR as well.
Yeah, it seems like these devs are always backdooring a little VR code just in case they want to go that direction, just so they're ready when it blows up. I mean, I just read that they found some references to VR in the Final Fantasy VII remake. So
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Can you imagine, dude? That talk about people fucking crying and they find out that shit's coming out. There's some one of my friends is the biggest Final Fantasy person that I know, and I think he would just flip out. So
Yeah, I don't see it, but then again, Square Enix, a solid foundation in VR. So who knows? Maybe PS5 comes out and they decide to activate some VR features, and we're going to talk more about PlayStation VR and PlayStation 5 at the end of the show. But back to this, yeah, absolutely gorgeous. It just reminds me of how hyped I am for this game. I can't wait.
yeah.
All right. The next game I wanted to talk about was actually a couple of games. Pixel Ripped 1995 / 1989. It's a weird week for Pixel Ripped. First of all, Pixel Ripped 1995 has appeared on the Oculus Quest store for the first time. So you can go on there today and wish list this game, which I imagine a lot of people are going to do because, again, Roots, everything we loved about 1989 looks like it's going to be taken to the next level in this title.
Yeah, it looks really good. And I don't know, man. The whole thing about this Pixel Rip, we were talking a little bit about it before we started recording, and it's weird, man. I don't understand what Oculus is doing because, this is on the Quest store and as an advertisement, and they still don't have 1989 on there. And as far as we know, it may never go on the store. And I don't understand. I just don't understand, man. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, this is another one of those weird ones, like To the Top. We just found out this past week that Pixel Rip 1989, the original Pixel Rip title, the predecessor to this one, was developed for Oculus Quest. It was fully completed and optimized, running well on the hardware, and it was just flat out denied by Oculus. Again, the same way they did To the Top and a couple of other titles. We know this because of the creator, Ana Ribeiro, on Twitter, had replied to a comment about it, about how perfect it would be for Quest. And I agree, it would be perfect on the Quest. But this is what she said. This is how she explained the situation to a fan. Quote, "We had optimized Pixel Rip 1989 and it is running well on the Oculus Quest, but we can't release it on Quest without Oculus approval. Sorry, man. We done what we could on our end." And then later she gave a little more detail when she said, "It isn't a queue. You submit a pitch for Oculus, and if they don't approve it, you just can't go forward. It's a more selective, restrictive process than the Oculus Rift. Unfortunately, 1989 is not approved." And I've seen since then a couple more times on Twitter her expressing her disappointment in an indirect way about, obviously she doesn't want to step on too many Oculus toes, but clearly they put a lot of work into getting this thing running on Oculus Quest, and just more work down the drain, Roots.
Yeah, work, money, it just, to me, if I was a developer, I wouldn't be rushing out to be making a Quest game or making my game available on Quest, because how much money can you sink into something and then find out for whatever reason, we won't even tell you why. You just can't have it on the store. You just wasted all this time and effort and money. And what's weird is they give out these kits and hey, create some shit for us, we just won't let you put it on our store. And I don't know, man. I feel like she's a really classy person, really class act, that company, to be handling it the way they are. They're just doing everything they can do to let everybody know that, hey, this is what's happening. It's out of our hands. And, I hopefully it'll eventually get on there, because this isn't the only game. Touring Carts, I don't understand why that's not on there. Like you said, To the Top. I mean, these are really good games. that deserve to be on every platform, especially if there's no reason not to. And now, granted, Oculus also has the right to not put it on there. I just don't like the way they're doing it. They're wasting developers' time and money. So
yeah, well, there is hope. There is a precedent for games being initially denied and then picked up later. 2MD Football was recently picked up after initially being denied. We had something similar with Pavlov, even though Pavlov just this past week published Pavlov, what's it called? There's a variation of Pavlov that's on SideQuest this week. I forget what it's called, like Pavlov Shack or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I don't know, man. If for me, Pavlov, of course, I have it on the Rift, but if it doesn't have all the for what's so good about it is all the maps that people create. You know, just having a few maps would limit it for me. Like I literally, the first time I went in that one where it was a kid's room and you were like shrunk down and you were like a toy soldier size. I mean, the scale, it was so unique. And I just love that game for that reason. You just never know what people are going to create and put in there.
See, I never experienced any of that. I played the generic, Pavlov like 2 years ago. I tried it out a few times on Steam VR and thought it was okay, but never really went back to it. But I didn't even know then about all this other stuff that was available for it.
Yeah, there's so many cool maps. And what's the really cool ones are like old school games, like someone's redone Nuketown or something, or just whatever. And it's like, some Counter-Strike maps, or maybe some of your favorite. There's even a one that was like, I think it was a World of Warcraft one. So they've got some cool stuff. So.
Yeah, well, apparently they've got some brand new cool stuff on SideQuest, even though Pavlov's still supposedly coming to Oculus Quest later this year. But here's the thing that gets me. I get that Oculus wants their Quest to be a competitor for PlayStation VR. And PlayStation VR has been notorious for having difficult quality assurance procedures. It's hard to publish on the Sony store. But there's one key difference here between what Sony's doing and what Oculus does. With Sony, if they disapprove your game, they say, okay, we're not going to publish it. Here's why. You need to fix this, you need to fix that, you need to fix that. And then they give it back to the developer to fix these things. And as long as they do that, they can publish. But with Oculus, that's not what they're doing here. They're just saying, denied, rubber stamp, like budget cuts, denied. And that's it. No discussion as to why. And maybe they'll come back around and pick it up, and maybe they won't. But it's completely out of the developer's hands at that point. They've done all they can do, and all they can do is either cross their fingers and hope that Oculus comes back, or they can go and publish it through side loading, which is an option, but many of these bigger developers won't do that because obviously they're afraid of burning bridges at Oculus, and then they won't be able to publish their next game, maybe not even on Rift. So yeah, I kind of get it. It's just unfortunate, and I wish that Oculus would reconsider their process here and at least give the developers some explanation as to why their games aren't being published.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. But anyway, even though we're not going to get to play 1989 anytime soon on Oculus Quest, I am looking forward to 1995. Hopefully, this will be a cross-buy title, so I can just buy the game once and play it on either headset. But we'll find out soon enough, coming in spring 2020 from Arvor. All right, on to the next game, Roots. Let's talk a little bit about Crunch Element. Crunch Element was a game that we talked about here a month or two ago on the channel. An interesting looking game. Not so much from a visual perspective. It's got fairly basic, very Quest-like graphics. But what's so unique about this game is the gameplay concept. It's you're trying to basically conquer these compounds, these facilities, and the main what's the word I'm looking for here? The main function, the main thing you're doing is exploding through the walls. You have charges that you can blow up any wall in the game. You can blow any wall up in this game. And climbing. The climbing features prominently into this. So it's kind of tactical. You see where all the guys are inside. You see what the best ways to access are. You plan out an attack strategy, and then you get to it. You climb, you place your charges, and then you breach the compound. I'm not sure how great it will be. I'm not sure how well it's going to stand up against today's games, but my curiosity's peaked here, man. It looks like it might be cool.
Yeah, I think the gameplay looks pretty good. I think it looks a lot like Crisis VR Brigade, you know, as far as graphically. And that game works perfect for me. I never, when I played that game, I never thought, wow, this doesn't look realistic enough. It just felt good. And like you just saw, physics-based explosives. I mean, who doesn't want to explode shit and watch it in real physics, right? But I don't know. It looks really interesting, and it looks like it's very fast-paced, and hopefully there'll be some kind of a story to it. I'm kind of psyched to see what they're going to do with it.
Me too. And the reason why we're bringing it up again this week is because Crunch Element has entered a Kickstarter phase. So they've started a Kickstarter campaign. It's one of these, it's not necessary things, but the game will be better if we can get a little money. One of these type of deals. And they're currently on Kickstarter. They have a goal of $10,000, so not a very large goal. 19 days left. They're already over halfway there. And $15 will get you a copy of the game. $30 will get you access to all the dev builds. So, as long as there's some content here, $15 is a fairly reasonable price for a Kickstarter, right?
Yeah. And the dev builds you can get, I guess I would imagine immediately, or did they say when you'd get that?
It's either immediately or immediately after the Kickstarter ends. It may be one of those deals like Lo-Fi where they hand out access afterwards. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I think this is cool. I'm hoping that this turns out to be an Oculus Quest game. It looks like one that would run perfectly on Quest. And again, a very unique gameplay concept. If they can manage to put a little story behind it and a little variability in each level, I think there's a potential here for this game to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so let's talk about a brand new game, Roots. Let's talk about 2020 as what it's going to go down as, the year of Cyberpunk. It's every freaking week now. I'm seeing a new Cyberpunk game, Roots, and you know what the problem is? They all look bad ass. I'm talking about Silicon Rising. I had no idea this was even a thing. But man, look at this, Roots. It looks beautiful just like all the other ones, right?
It does, actually. It looks really good.
I mean, if you take the gameplay out of it and just look at the environments, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of difference, is there? They all look fairly similar.
Yeah, will there be a flying car? That's the question. Probably at some point, right? But yeah, it looks very cyberpunkish, and definitely very interesting.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I've been teasing in recent weeks that I'm going to let you all know about another Cyberpunk VR game that I've been watching upcoming on this channel. This isn't it. This is not that game. So there's still another one. And you know what, Roots? I'm pretty sure that other one does have an air car in it.
Wow. I'm kind of psyched to see what they're going to do with it then, I mean, even this looks really cool.
Well, the really good thing about it, even though there's 4 of them coming out this year that I can think of off the top of my head, even though they have very similar environments, from what I can tell, they all have very different styles of gameplay. So it's a similar theme, motif, if you will, but the gameplay, very different. With Lo-Fi, you're going to have this kind of open world, open-ended experience with tons of small side quests that you can participate in, and you can be a good cop or a bad cop. You can take bribes or bust heads. Kind of open-ended gameplay with Lo-Fi, whereas with Lawn, very linear, very traditional first-person shooter type game, story-driven. With this one, this seems a little more arcade style. But with that said, the developer, I don't know how to pronounce this, Cougar Game, this is how it's spelled. The developer says that this game isn't all about the shooting. The premise here is that you're this shapeshifter who hides in the shadows and kind of has these superhuman abilities. So not only are you shooting and fighting the bad guys, but you're going to have unique abilities like bullet time and things like that. There's going to be driving levels. Apparently, level to level, the gameplay is going to change in this game, but it's very much, from what I can tell by looking at it, arcade style gameplay.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of shooting for a game that they say is not about shooting. A lot of shooting. That's good, right?
Yeah. At least it's not all about the shooting.
Yeah, that's true.
That they've got other stuff going on. So it looks pretty cool. That right there looks like Seeking Dawn.
I was thinking the same thing too. Yeah, exact same chick almost, even though not, but similar.
You start to wonder if all of these are all done in Unity and all using the same assets.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it looks like. Anyway, let's see what we've got here on this one. It is set to be released next month as early access on Steam. And let's see here. The game is a story-driven arcade-style first-person shooter. One of the initial batch of confirmed VR titles that will support NVIDIA's variable rate super sampling. So if you pick this one up on the early access next week, Roots, or next month, rather, you're going to be able to use your RTX on it.
That's cool. Yeah, it looks like they're starting to really build up that list of games, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing that right now they're adding support game by game. Hopefully, at some point they'll just be able to have like a blanket setting for all games. But it's cool when you see games like this, that are indie games from unknown developers supporting it. It lends you to believe that this is going to be a fairly widespread feature.
I would imagine so. Like if you were a developer and you could use it, why not? Like you're potentially going to be able to play your game on that many more computers, and have it look amazing. So I think that's going to be the wave of the future.
Yeah, for sure. When you start compounding stuff like that with things like dynamic foveated rendering and wide field of view displays, the next gen of VR is looking like it's going to be something special, just as special as the first gen VR. So
yeah, well, it's good to see NVIDIA taking steps as well. That's one of the reasons why I stick with them when it comes to video cards.
Right. So. Well, yeah. Well, they're supposedly AMD supposedly making some breakthroughs in the space, and Intel even supposedly going to be releasing some graphics cards coming up. So maybe the competition in the space will drive things even further. Hopefully, there will be some competition in the space over the coming months.
Yeah, hopefully, because it's going to be controversial for some people. I just don't see AMD as much of a competitor for me. I'm a big believer you get what you pay for, and you can skimp in a lot of things, and I just don't like to skimp in my computer. So I like it to run well and not be all fucked up jank. And yeah, that probably pissed off a bunch of people.
Well, I imagine so, because honestly, in all fairness, AMD's last couple of lines of CPUs, not GPUs, but their computers, their chips, they're pretty much on par with Intel. And I know it's hard for you to break that mindset because they've sucked for so long.
It is, but there's so many conflicts that I still am not 100% convinced that most of the Rift S issues aren't AMD related. A lot of people have had VR shit. Somebody was just telling me that recently in one of the games we were playing. I think it was, I don't know exactly who it was, but they were saying that think it was Scion or something, that they were never going to go AMD anymore because they had so many issues with VR when they tried to go AMD that they just said fuck it. And that's one thing that Intel does, is it just runs well. There's not driver issues. There's, you know what I mean? Yeah, there are every once in a while. I think you just get what you pay for. I'd rather just pay a couple $100 more and have a badass processor. But that's just me.
All right. Well, that's certainly your prerogative, and I'm not. That I went for it too. I threw down the extra bill to get the Intel chip, but that was 2 years ago. I can't swear that 2 years from now that I won't go for AMD, because again, I do keep up with the tech space a little bit, and I do watch what's going on with it here, and AMD has made huge strides over the last 2 years in their CPU products. So hopefully we'll see something similar come in the GPU space. God knows we could use some competition for NVIDIA, if for no other reason to drive the price back down, because they unnecessarily really raised the price this last generation based on artificial scarcity from the end of the last generation. So hopefully we can get some competition and bring that back to something a little more affordable for the common gamer.
Yeah, this is expensive.
Yeah, it's freaking crazy. It's still crazy. But yeah, hopefully not forever, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Silicon Rising, a pleasant surprise, one that I didn't know was coming, but a fairly awesome looking game, something I'm looking forward to checking out in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about new games, it's becoming more and more difficult for me to put these shows together, because I do see a lot of games, even like the last couple of weeks, you do see games, but if I don't feel like they stand up and they're going to hold up to today's standards, I really don't want to put them on my show. I don't cover games just because we know that there's a game coming. I try to cover games that at least I have some interest in, something that looks like it might be good. I don't want to cover a bunch of every game that's coming out on Steam next year, because 4 out of 5 of them are going to be garbage. So let's just be honest about it. Most of the stuff on Steam is garbage, and it's getting more difficult because, as we've talked about many times over the last few months, the bar has raised. The definition of a good game is different now than it was 6 months ago. And I'm trying to have a little bit more lax standards because obviously not every game is going to be Asgard's Wrath. Not every game is going to be Stormlands. And if we're going to try to hold every game to that standard, we're never going to have a show. So what I'm finding here, Roots, is I'm finding one of two types of games that are recurring when I look at what's coming out. One, I'll see a game that is an old, played out concept that we have 100 of, but a very high level of production. Like, it'll be a good looking game, a game that looks like it looks good, it plays good, everything sounds good. It looks like it's a very well made game, but a played out genre. Or I'll find a very unique concept for a game, but it just looks like the production values aren't there. Like, it'll be indie jank, even though, like, if they could bring their vision to life, it would be awesome. It just looks like they're not capable. And I've got a few more games on our list here today, or a couple more anyway. And they have potential. They might be fun, but I feel like they all kind of fall into one of those two categories. And the first one I'm talking about is Ironlights. This game is coming to us from the same developer that brought us a few other games. I know Darknet and Astraeus are the most notable of the games from this developer. But Ironlights is a new combat and dueling melee VR game coming to Oculus Quest, Oculus Rift, and Steam VR this spring. Now, Roots, when I look at this and I look at this footage, this looks about as bland and plain as you can get. When you look at the environments, when you look at the characters, when you look at what's really going on here, it doesn't look like much. But when I read into this game and what it actually is, I find out that this is round by round based, that you can play versus someone or you can play by yourself. And most notably, this is what I think is really cool about this game, is that you can play locally on Oculus Quest with other people on Oculus Quest. So you don't have to connect to the internet. You can connect the quests directly and play against each other in the same space. Now that, my friend, is a unique concept and something that has merit. And even though this looks like a very bland environment and not very compelling characters, I think this might be a lot of fun if you've got another friend with a Quest who's in your immediate vicinity.
Yeah, how big a room would you have to where you're not afraid of hitting each other? Well,
if the game's done correctly, you should see each other. You should know where each other's at, and the distance should be managed fairly well.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know. It looks pretty cool. It kind of makes me think of what could they do. Like, I mean, how far are we from Mortal Kombat in VR? How cool would that be, right?
Or Striking Vipers.
Yeah, or even Street Fighter, or like there's all sorts of games that these type of games, one-on-ones. I mean, they were not my type of games. I mean, I was really good at Mortal Kombat, but other than that, the other ones I never was that good at. But I don't know, it is definitely unique. So I guess it would have to be Quest. You couldn't do like Quest and Rift in the same room, or they were only specific Quest to Quest, huh?
That's what the info I read said. Oculus Quest, and for the record, the footage in this trailer all Quest footage. So this isn't what the game looks like on PC. Hopefully, it'll be a little bit more detailed on PC. This is Quest footage, and to be honest, those player avatars actually look pretty good for Oculus Quest, right?
Yeah, it looks really good. Can you imagine if this, it wasn't this scenario, you had those same things coming together, but it was like a Tron, and you were like on your platforms and you were playing that disc thing and jumping from, I don't know, man. I want to get Tron in VR so bad that I'm watching this medieval fighting and I'm seeing Tron somehow. But no, I think you're right. I think the uniqueness of this could be definitely different. And it's not just, when I first saw it, I thought, oh man, they're just kind of waggling their swords around or whatever, but they're doing all sorts of magic and a lot of different shit there. So it could be really cool.
Yeah. Not only are the weapons really unique and diverse in this game, but the gameplay isn't straight melee either. I don't know how it works, but this is actually kind of turn-based as well, according to what I read. It's not just a straight fight. You have to take turns attacking and defending within the game. So it's kind of a turn-based melee game.
No, that'd be kind of weird. Different.
Yeah, it's definitely different. Now, as far as the local Oculus Quest multiplayer, not the first time we've ever seen this concept in VR. We did hear recently of a game called Space Pirate Arena from the developers of Space Pirate Trainer, which is another local versus multiplayer game, only that one is a shooter. So while this one isn't the first one we've heard of, it's probably going to be the first one to market, because again, this one's scheduled to be out in spring.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how good it does and how fun it is to play, right?
Well, if any of you are willing to put your money down, you could find out sooner rather than later, because this game, much like the last one we talked about, is in Kickstarter now. They started a Kickstarter. They have a goal of $15,000. Again, this is another one of those value added Kickstarters. The game's going to publish regardless. They just want to put a little more work into it, need a little more money. $15,000 goal, already 1/3 of the way there, Roots, with 27 days to go. So they literally just started this one. They've already got 1/3 of their goal. And just like the last one, $15 gets you a launch copy, $30 gets you beta access.
Wow. Man, money's just flying out of my wallet, Wes. I don't know what the hell's going on.
Everybody with the Kickstarters these days, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it helps make the game better, then so be it, you know. I don't know.
So if this concept is intriguing to you, or this looks like your type of game, get on there, support their Kickstarter. I'll try to remember to link this stuff up in the description. If not, just our Discord link, our Discord invite is in the description down there. You can hit me up on the Discord, and I can hook you up with the links to the Kickstarters for this game, the other game, or any other thing that you might hear me mention on here. Just hit me up on the Discord, and I'll shoot you the link. All right, so moving on, going down the list quick today, huh?
Yeah, it's going pretty quick.
Yeah. All right, Roots. So let's talk about Fight or Flight VR. This one is coming to us from a gentleman by the name of Hayek Amirbekian. I'm totally slaughtering that. It seems like he may be of Armenian descent, or at least that's what his name looks like. Hayek Amirbekian. Sorry, sir. I'm doing the best I can. Mr. Amirbekian has released a trailer for his very first VR title, a sci-fi shooter called Fight or Flight VR. And while this trailer is new, this game actually appeared on a short video segment from Oculus Connect 5 in 2018. During an indie event attached to OC5, this gentleman showcased some very early footage flying around of an alien world, killing lots of insect-like creatures. The title was originally designed for mobile, but then he later decided to port it to PC VR. Even though it still looks kind of basic, Fight or Flight VR has a way to go until it's complete, with Mr. Amirbekian mentioning in a YouTube post that, quote, "I think the full release will take at least another year. However, I will likely start selling the game in early access or giving early copies to Kickstarter backers when I launch the Kickstarter." Roots, this thing looks kind of intriguing to me. Actually, it looks, I get Farpoint vibes from it, obviously. I see a little bit of Jet Island and Stormland in here. It looks pretty cool for an indie project, right?
Yeah, and what's funny is like the beginning of it, I was a little bit off as far as just like, like you said, it's a shooter or whatever, but the environments look really cool, and that's what really gets me is like I've never seen like space the way I want it to look. Like I want the sky to look amazing. I want to look up and think, oh my God, like I love space. I love stars. I love, this just looks like it could be really good. And the environment, the grass, everything looks done very well. And so hopefully it'll be as good as it looks anyway.
Yeah, it looks like there's a good variety of weapons here. Lots of different stuff. If you watch this commercial, lots of different unique weapons. And the cool thing about it is you're not just stuck on the ground. As you can see here, when the bugs get too close, you just take off like Superman, bro, and just fly around like Jet Island.
See, I'm trying to figure out how do you bring those two things together? Like, how am I flying like Superman one minute and the next minute I've got a gun and I'm on the ground shooting? Why am I not just flying away from these things? It's very bizarre to me. But yeah, I guess we'll find out when it comes out, but that's just weird.
Yeah. This falls into the other category opposite of the last game we talked about, Iron Sights. I feel like this is a fairly common concept for a game, right? A fairly common concept. I don't know if it's the standards are going to be there, but it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess fight or flight. So I guess you fight as long as you can and then take off flying or something. But definitely looks unique. And like I said, the environments look really cool to me. They're almost like Mars or something, right?
Yeah, that's the thing here with this thing. The gameplay looks like a lot of fun, but I'm concerned that there isn't much structure to the game. Like it seems like a Gen 1 indie game, right? It seems like you're just fucking running around shooting stuff. There's not much else to it other than that. And as fun as that is, you know, how long? How long before we turn this one off and don't go back to it?
Yeah, 30 minutes. I'll get in there, kill some shit. And unless it's got a cool story and, you never know. But
well, that's the thing. This is like alpha gameplay. So he can still add to it and put that sort of thing, put a story behind it.
yeah.
But a really cool looking game. Definitely watching out for the Kickstarter here on this. Again, hopefully it holds up to today's standards. I feel like the gameplay looks fun enough that there's something here. Just so long as he can make it a bit more of a complete game, I feel like it may be worth our time.
It's a lot of Kickstarters, right? In 1 week, this is 3. And it just makes me wonder if this is going to be like the new norm where, hey, we need more money. Give us some cash. We'll get your game made. And if not, then fuck off. And no, actually, none of these people have said that. But, it's just weird.
There's so many, dude. Elysia, Lo-Fi, Panther VR. I mean, it's just endless, all the Kickstarter games. There's even other ones I didn't even put on here. There's so many of them.
If you were going to get Kickstarter, like if you were inclined to get a Kickstarter thing, would you be, because I would be more inclined to get hardware than software game wise. I'm just drawn more towards these cool gadgets and stuff, even though I've bought game and I've never bought hardware, but I just feel like it would be more of a draw. I don't know if you're the same way or not, but
well here with the hardware, the stakes are generally a little higher because you're putting up more money. I feel like with software, you're a lot more likely to actually get the product, where hardware can just pack up their tent and go home, and you're just shit out of luck. And furthermore, even with some of this hardware, these cool gadgets, even if they deliver the product, in many cases, you have to have support from the game developers as well. So I feel like hardware, while a lot more enticing, can be a whole lot more risky to participate in.
And those explosions do look pretty cool. I changed my mind. I'm really psyched for this one now. But no, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks awesome, right?
Yeah.
It looks like this is a good base to build a game upon. I don't want it to be wave based, or rail based shooting. I want there to be some structure here, some point to it all, and hopefully that's what this Kickstarter will bring. It'll bring some funding, give the guy the money he needs to really make this into something cool.
I'm starting to get to the point, Wes, where I don't, like we've said it before in the past, and I'm disagreeing with myself. I don't want a unique wave shooter. Like, I don't want wave shooters at all. Like, they need to die. They need to go off in the fucking just somewhere and disappear. Because, at some point I'm losing patience for them, And so, yeah, hopefully this isn't one of them as well. Interesting
you say that, Roots, because the next game I'm going to talk about is a game that goes by the title of Scraper Gauntlet. This is from Labradex Studios, the studio that brought us a solid VR title in Scraper First Strike. Roots, this is a wave-based shooter. This is one of those that falls into the prior category of a common played out concept that looks very well done. This looks like a wave shooter, but it looks like it has a lot of compelling gameplay. It looks like it's really well done. Looks like there's good weapon customizations in it. Very short rounds, so that you're constantly able to tweak the gameplay. And from what I understand, in between rounds, you can kind of control what direction the gameplay itself takes, not just the weapons, but there is a little variability to the next wave based on the choices that you make. Roots, I'm with you. I don't really want another wave shooter. I really wish these guys would have done another adventure game. But that said, as far as wave shooters go, this one, I mean, it looks really good. The production value seems to be there. The concepts seem to be somewhat unique, even if the overall concept is played out.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. Like, I've already played, I like Scraper for Strike. You know, it's a good game. Why do I need this game is my question. I don't know. Like, you know, maybe it's amazing. Maybe it feels really good. You know, I just, you know, I get into these wave shooters and it just doesn't, it feels hollow to me. It feels, you know, just like something that, I don't know, it's just not for me anymore. And maybe this one's different. It'll be amazing, but it's going to take, I guess this type of game for me is going to have to be really, really good to make me want to play it. Otherwise, it's just going to be, if it's average, there's too many average wave shooters out there, you know?
All right, it says here that Scraper Gauntlet is looking to emulate the fast and frantic fixed wave shooters that dominated the VR scene in the early years. You're equipped with a couple of heavily modifiable gauntlets on each arm, offering both offensive and defensive capabilities, all of which can be upgraded depending on the choices that you make. The gameplay is wave-based, but apparently offers up some unique variability between the very short levels. Now, here's the thing, Roots. You said you just have to wait and see if this game has something to offer to you, something compelling. The game is currently in open beta, and the beta can be accessed via the game's Discord server. I went on there earlier today and filled out the form to get access to the beta. Anyone else who finds this to be the least bit compelling can do so as well.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, this would be worth checking out, right?
I think so. It looks like the production value is good enough. And, you know, their first title was good enough that I feel like this at least deserves a look, especially if they're allowing us a free look at it, you know.
Where's my wheelchair in this, though? Do I have my pod or no?
Maybe this is prior to
maybe
the
this is how you get in the wheelchair. Ooh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think we all know how we end up in the wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
Or at least Alyx knows how.
Alyx knows, and he is still laughing about it. So
maybe he can tell Anthony on Sunday how we ended up in the wheelchair.
Yeah, Anthony, dude, if he doesn't bring it up, you need to bring it up. Ask him about the wheelchair. Have him tell you the joke, and and we'll watch everyone's heads go.
All right, Roots. Anyway, this is pretty cool looking, even though I'm not too excited about the genre. But hey, they're going to let us check it out for free. I'm down for free, right?
Yeah, free is always good.
All right. Again, if you're interested in this, just hit me up on our Discord. The invitation in the description down there, and I will give you all of the appropriate links that you need to participate in this beta. All right, one more thing I want to talk about, and this is just a quick note, a possibility, if you will. I want to talk about a new PSVR headset possibly coming this year. Now, what do you mean? They said that PSVR 2 is not coming this year. Well, maybe it's not PSVR 2. Maybe it's something like what you see here, a PSVR Pro. something with a little bit better visuals, something with some built-in audio, maybe some thumbsticks on the controllers, something that plays Gen 1 games better on the new console. It makes a lot of sense, right? We've talked about this before, that it would make a lot of sense if it's going to take a couple more years to get to PSVR 2. It makes sense to have a premium version of PSVR 1, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because I've heard people tell me, "Oh, this will never happen," and I'm like, "Well, the Rift S just happened. Why people wouldn't have thought that was going to happen either?" And it makes sense from a business standpoint. You can't have the oldest headset out there, with the worst visuals. It's just not. There's everything about the PlayStation VR is becoming antiquated. There's no 360. The controllers suck compared to everyone else's. It's not as powerful. Visuals aren't as good. And like you were saying before the Rift S, it was your go-to as far as visually. And once that happened, Rift S came out, Index came out. You got a lot of very good headsets, and it sounds like to me this is perfect timing.
Yeah, the advantages of the PSVR were library, which everyone else is catching up with, comfort, which everyone else is catching up with, affordability, which everyone else is catching up with. So yeah, it's time. It's time for Sony to, if they don't want to lose market share, they need to update their hardware. Now, I'm quite confident that the software library is going to bounce back in a big way after PS5 comes out, in a big way. But I feel like it's a mistake if they don't bring along the hardware with it. And if they don't want to release PSVR 2, if that's not a possibility right now, PSVR Pro is the way to go. And like you said, most people kind of poo-pooed the idea. But I've always thought that it kind of made sense. And just this week, we kind of got we began to hear whispers that this might in fact be the case, because VR Education Holdings, a virtual reality company specializing in educational content such as Apollo 11 VR and Titanic VR, has released its trading update for the end of 2019. So this is kind of an investor report. Them talking to people who own stock in their company, giving their investors an idea of how the company is doing financially. And in this report, there were some interesting predictions for the company itself and the VR industry as a whole. These predictions include a positive outlook for the company in 2020, as well as a mention of a PlayStation VR successor. And what they said was 2020 will see Sony release PlayStation 5 and a new version of the PlayStation VR headset, which will further expand the high-end VR user base. The group intends to support this device with its current suite of showcase software. So what we have here is an internal investor report from a fairly prominent developer, again, that brought us Apollo 11, brought us Titanic VR, games we all know about, or experiences rather, that we all know about, telling their investors, hey, we have a lot to look forward to this year. PS5's coming this year, and so is the follow-up PSVR headset. Ruuts, this could just be excuses being made from the chair of this company, or if anyone knows about new hardware first, it's game developers. So this could be them just letting something slip that they weren't supposed to make public. What do you think?
I kind of lean on the side that this is really happening. And I think it's interesting, the wording that they say there, that they're expanding the high-end VR user base. Because that's what's going to happen when you bring out this new headset that's visually better, has joysticks, does have 360 camera capability or whatever, and you combine that with the PS5, man, it's going to fucking rock, man. I I don't think people realize how good it's going to be. It really gets me excited. And, I'll have it day one. I don't care if I just bought a Pro, and I'll buy a PS5 and I'll buy that fucking headset, and it'll be awesome. So,
yeah, I honestly believe that my next headset will be a PlayStation VR headset. Now, I don't know if that'll be this year or next year or the year after that, but I honestly believe that's what the next one's going to be for me. And I'm hoping that it comes sooner rather than later. Again, I don't need PSVR 2 yet. It'd be nice, but the headset we just described would be more than sufficient for me. Another interesting thing about this report, Roots, is it kind of lends credence to some of the things we've said over the last few months as far as the state of VR as a whole. We've said it, it's these companies' business to predict trends in the market and invest accordingly. And basically, the trading update expects VR Education's holdings revenue to be 1.02 million euros for 2019, which is a 42% increase on 2018, even if it was below their projections. 42% growth in a year for a VR company that specializes in educational material. I mean, that's pretty big, right?
that's huge. Yeah. And the base is just getting bigger, so you expect that to increase. So,
as far as the being below their expectations, part of the reasoning behind this is, quote, the delayed launch and the lack of availability for mobile standalone headsets. And while it is disappointing to not have grown revenues for fiscal year 19 at the pace previously forecasted, we have grown this year and made significant progress, which lays solid foundations for further growth in fiscal year 20. With VR adoption becoming more mainstream through the wider availability of new standalone VR devices, along with the improvements that 5G deployment will bring, we are confident that 2020 will see an increase in demand for immersive experiences. As a result, we believe that the group will see continued strong growth of sales of our VR showcase experiences, as well as an accelerated adoption of our Engage platform. Roots, a lot of big buzzwords here. They're saying that their projections, despite the very significant growth that they did have, they're saying they expected more based on the onset of mobile VR. They expected the supply to meet the demand, and it hasn't. And they expect that to be remedied this year. And not only that, they expect for 5G to be deployed this year, as well as a new PSVR headset. And again, for a company like this that makes inexpensive educational experiences, to make that kind of money and have these sorts of projections, I think that it's very, very encouraging for the immediate future of the VR industry as a whole.
yeah, especially since they're saying that the supply, there not being enough out there because they didn't think it was going to blow up as big as it has. A lot of people would say, a lot of these things were mobile to begin with, that the whole mobile industry, it makes sense that it's just now starting to happen because, people can go back and they say, oh man, mobile's been out for a while. We've had the Gears VR has been out for a long time. Mamefan had that, the Go. But I would submit that true standalone VR didn't exist until the Quest. I mean, not in the form that it needed to exist, where you have your hands and everything's coming together, and we're just now seeing it blow up. People can't get their hands on them. So yeah, the supply is just not there yet. But this time next year, everything's going to be different. I can just feel it. You know, you can see everything falling into place all together at one time. It's very bizarre, but it's happening. So.
Yeah, I agree. A bright future, a great time to be a VR enthusiast. And when it comes to companies like this that are focused on education-based experiences, we got to remember that the market that they're serving isn't primarily the consumer market. Because I know what you're thinking. How can these guys make $1 million off of Apollo 11 and Titanic? Well, when you're talking about educational stuff, you're talking about supplying educational institutions. And when you start doing that, you start talking about enterprise hardware that you're supplying for as well. And when they talk about standalone and they talk about 5G this year, what they're talking about are headsets like Pico Neo, which is basically, at least in the Western markets, going to be marketed as an enterprise thing. But all of these new standalone headsets, they're all based upon the newer Qualcomm chipsets, and all of the newer Qualcomm chipsets are built around 5G streaming functionality. That's what allows them to connect wirelessly with PCs, as well as the overall cellular network. So the technology moving at a fast pace, the software moving at a fast pace, and we've said it time and again, just like Oculus said it at OC6, the time is now. I mean, it's happening now, and it's exciting.
Yeah, what I don't understand is, how does Sony building a new headset play into Oculus bringing the next gen? Yeah, never mind. Yeah, just the joke of Oculus's comment last week of saying that they're
I get you.
Yeah, it's just I don't, there's so many players out there that are pushing the industry forward. I just see that it's such a presumptuous statement, and it just bugs me. So.
Yeah, we did our episode last week, and then it was kind of, in case you didn't notice, it was kind of built around us tearing down that statement from Mr. Abrash, where he said that the next gen will only come from Oculus. And then we proceeded to take 2 hours to go down the line of all this next gen technology that's available today. Interestingly, just today, a rash of patent information was leaked from Facebook, including haptic gloves and all sorts of different eye tracking and lens technology. Just a ton of different stuff got leaked today. So apparently, when we were kind of speculating that maybe Facebook had their hands in some of these pots as well, apparently that's the case. But apparently they're just not able to do it at an affordable enough price to have a consumer product yet. But it's coming.
Yeah. Exciting times.
Exciting times indeed. Well, friends, I think that's going to wrap us up this week. Again, I'd like to remind you all, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. And if you have subscribed, please help us to spread the word. We're trying to really push to get to 1,000 subs in the first half of this year. We're well on our way there, but we can only do it with your help. So if you've enjoyed this content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, click the bell to keep up with all of our other content that we're producing for this channel going forward. And yeah, with that said, friends, I'd like to thank you all for watching. And for Roots, I'm Wes, and we will see you tomorrow, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.